Welcome to the Entrepreneurial podcast. I'm your host, Christian, aka Love Pixel. And in each episode, we sit down with spiritual entrepreneurs sharing their knowledge, wisdom, and tools on their path to authentic success. Let's dive in. What is up, beautiful people? This is Christian here from the Successful Entrepreneur podcast. And today we have a very special guest for you. Her name is Eileen McKusick, and she is a groundbreaking figure known for her extensive work in therapeutic sound, human biofields, and electric health. With an MA in Integrative Education, she embarked on her journey into sound's impact on the human's body's electromagnetic system in 1996. Eileen is the pioneer behind Biofield Tuning, a sound therapy method with global reach, boasting over 2,000 students trained since 2010. She established the Biofield Tuning Institute, conducting grant-funded, peer-reviewed studies on the Human Biofield. In her acclaimed book, Tuning the Human Biofield, Healing with Vibrational Sound Therapy, has earned prestigious awards alongside her recent work, Electric Body, Electric Health, released in 2021. Eileen's contributions to extend to innovation, extend to invention, including weighted tuning forks and accessories such as the beloved Sonic Slider and Fibonacci pair. Her respective shifts from chemical/mechanical to electro-sonic, simplifying complex health concepts. And as a thought-after speaker and influencer, she bridges scientific and pseudoscientific realms, emphasizing our body's electrical nature and advocating for coherent living in electric health and biofield science paradigms. Welcome to the show, Eileen.
Thanks, Christian. Thanks for having me.
Yay, such an honor to have you here. And I feel so blessed because you're really a person that has so much experience in the, electromagnetic and healing field. So how, just briefly about your story, how did you get into that? What sparked your journey into that? Have you always been into that? Was there a big shift that caused that? So yeah, let us know a little bit about your background and how you got into that biofield tuning.
I would say that I'm a person who likes to solve problems. And I certainly ended up with plenty of my own to solve from my childhood, from my upbringing. When I was around 18, I started developing an interest in science and spirituality, in health and human potential. And really, I'm very much a researcher by nature. I love to read. I love to take in lots of information. I love to connect dots. And that journey led me to vibrational medicine, to the idea that everything is fundamentally fields of energy, information, and not really solid like we've been taught and told. And that led me to tuning forks, which I started playing with in a part-time massage therapy practice back in 1996. And I picked them up, and then I never put them down, and I've been using them ever since, and have learned so much about our bodies, about our minds, about our spirits, about what it means to be a balanced, healthy, regulated person versus not. And it really just evolved into its own thing. It kind of took me on a journey I never expected to go on. And I developed a very busy practice as a sound therapist. I had people want me to teach them. I started teaching in 2010. In 2014, I published my first book, Tuning the Human Biofield, and came out. I started my own business really then, with a $5,000 loan from a friend that I've now grown into, multi-million-dollar global, like mini empire because because of tuning forks, which really hadn't expected at all. But they are very helpful to solve the problems that many people are struggling with. And I'm always looking for the most efficient, effective way to solve any problem. And somewhat unexpectedly, tuning forks showed up, and I've learned to use them in a way to help get people unstuck from physical issues, mental issues, emotional issues. Certainly solved my own problems in the process, and have helped many, many people to do the same. So, yeah.
Wow, beautiful. So when I look at you, like the archetype that comes up for me is like you're like the female Indiana Jones of sound therapy. That's what comes up when I look at you and when you talk. It's like, wow, look at, like, she's such an adventurer, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it really has been an adventure, and I've been able to discover things that other people haven't discovered. In fact, even right now, all these years in, I'm still discovering new ways to approach the body's electrical system with tuning forks, with sound. It's a continual process of discovery, which is great because I do love adventure and I do love going into uncharted territory. It's very exciting to me. And in a world where it seems like everything's already been charted, I was able to make quite a lot of discoveries about the human biofield. I discovered that our bodies have an electrical system, which wasn't a new discovery, but nothing I was ever taught about, something that I had to kind of put the pieces together myself, because none of us learn about the body's electrical system. And anything that has electric current running through it, like the human body does, has a magnetic field around it. This is what we talk about when we talk about the biofield. And through using sound like sonar and bouncing sound off of the people that I was working with, I discovered that this field actually has a very specific anatomy and physiology, just like you and I have kind of the same internal anatomy and physiology. We have the same external subtle energy as well. And mapping that field and discovering that in the biofield model, your body is actually inside your mind rather than the other way around. The biofield, the biomagnetic field, the electrical system is really what we call self and I. It's where our conscious mind is, our thoughts, our feelings, where our memories are stored. Our ancestral information, all the inputs that we think of as self are really in the body's electrical system and can be accessed through the field and modulated and adjusted and helping, all with the aim of helping you to become more regulated, more consistently regulated, just into a place where you feel grounded, clear, present, aware, playful, maybe even joyful. Because that's our natural state as humans. And we've all been stressed and traumatized out of that. And
Hmm.
most people are living in various states of dysregulation. But working with sound in the body's electrical system is a direct way in to helping support regulation and flow.
Hmm. Yeah. So I have two questions about that. One is, like, why sound? Like, there's so many other healing modalities. Like, why? What's so special about sound? And then the other one would be, one way I regulate my nervous system a lot is with tea, because I love tea. I drink a lot of tea, love different types of tea. Um,
Uppers and downers, a little black tea, a little chamomile.
yeah. So I would say, I mean, I guess tea is just something different. It's not so much
Well,
sound, but if there's a
yes and
related
no.
sound
It's
with
an
tea, I would
input.
love to hear about it if there is any. Uh,
Yeah. Okay. Well, what makes sound special? I mean, I would say that sound has been being used as a method of healing, if you will, uh, in every culture throughout time. If you look at gongs or bells or bowls or didgeridoos or drums or rattles, what I'm doing as a white girl with a tuning fork working in the field around you isn't so different than a medicine person with a rattle or a drum, shifting up the way that your energy is flowing in order to reset you so that you can move forward with a new story. The essence of sound healing is this desire and effect of bringing somebody into a place of relaxed, aware presence where you're not worrying about the future or having some regret about the past or a big chunk of you stuck in some old trauma that causes you to be reactive instead of responsive. So sound and music have been used to shift human states for as long as there's been humans, really. It's very direct. It gets right in there. It moves us, right? I mean, we all know that music moves us. It can move us to dance. It can move us to cry. It can move us to experience incredibly transcendent states. And so that is why, it just is inherent in the way that sound and music interact with humans and have forever.
So, if somebody's interested in learning more about sound therapy and biofield tuning with you, like what do you have, like what are your current like offerings or programs or that you would probably recommend for beginners at this time?
Well, it all depends on who you are and what you're doing and what you want. If someone is looking for a vocation, I will say that being a biofield tuning practitioner has been an incredibly gratifying experience for me. And this is echoed among our many practitioners around the world because the process gets right in to whatever is not right and immediately helps the body to start to sort it out. And it can really produce profound changes in people's experience of themselves and an opportunity to really expand through the tangles of your pain body and the difficult inputs you've had into your potential that you know is there. I think everyone knows that they have potential. It's literally electric potential. And unfortunately, a lot of our potential is all bound up and internalized from our collective upbringings in a not very supportive of human gifts and strengths that most of us grew up in. In a way, we're all Stradivariuses that that just got beat up, and we're out of tune. And the body, amazingly, is a self-tuning instrument. And being when exposed to a tuning fork, being used in a sort of skilled way around the field, will tune itself. It will bring itself back into tune. So it's such a gratifying, rewarding practice to see people move from being stuck in their pain bodies, being stuck in their reaction patterns, and then liberated from that out into the amazing being that they know they are, and that we see very clearly that they are. So it's also a practice that really integrates really well into other practices. So we have people, things like chiropractors, physical therapists, holistic nurses, other sound healers, psychotherapy, coaching. There's many ways that you can take the principles and the applications of this work and make what you're already doing more efficient, faster, that sort of thing. I have a friend who's an osteopath, and when she read Tuning the Human Biofield, she got just completely blown away because it really introduces a whole new paradigm. When you start thinking about electricity in the body, in our environment, it really opens up all kinds of new possibilities and avenues for growth. And what she did was she incorporated it into her osteopathic practice using her hands instead of tuning forks. But instead of just working on the body like she'd been doing, she started finding the energy in the field with her hands and bringing it back into the body, which is essentially what we do with the tuning forks. The basic principles of you have a field, magnetic fields guide and inform electric currents. A lot of what people are dealing with is wiring issues. Energy flows along established pathways, and that's why you keep going down the same road and falling into the same hole, is you're wired that way. It can be very hard to change that from the inside out. But if I come along with my tuning fork and move through your field and adjust and release and bring into tune and rewire you, now suddenly you have the opportunity for your energy to move along new pathways. And, that's what everybody's looking for. I mean, I've really come to the conclusion that most of what people suffer from is stuckness. They're stuck in some way. And that's why you go to somebody for help, to get you out of pain, to get you out of this gnarly relationship pattern you keep acting out. Whatever it is, it's all energy flowing along pathways in your body, in your mind, in your field. So if you like helping people, and I do, and I think a lot of people get a lot of satisfaction from knowing that they really, at the end of the day, wow, I really helped these people to feel better. You could consider our training course. So we have a certification course that you can do. If you just want to get started, I have 2 books. They're both on Audible, so you can listen to those. I have a YouTube channel that really explains a lot. I've got a lot of videos and a lot of free tunings. There's free tunings on my website and also on my YouTube channel. So you can experience what it's like to listen to a recording of tuning forks and discover how just like music can move you, just the single instrument of a tuning fork also has the ability to move you and to move you from a place where you're stuck to a place where you aren't stuck anymore.
Hmm. Wonderful. Um, so let's say, talking a little bit more about the actual like process of how it would, you know, just go about. Like, let's say a person would come to you and say, well, I really have a money block, or I would like to manifest more abundance. Like, how would this work in an in-person session? Like, can you walk us through that?
Sure. Well, an in-person session, you would come into a treatment room and you would recline on a treatment table, like a massage table, fully clothed. And a biofield tuning session starts with me using what we call weighted tuning forks that you don't hear.
Also, one more question. Like, so your sessions, can they also be held online, or is mainly like it's just in person on retreats and programs? Like, just for other people who think about, well, I would love
Yeah,
to.
it can be done over Zoom, which is kind of odd, but not really because if I was putting on a musical concert and you were watching it over Zoom, you would be moved as well, just like you might be moved in the audience, right?
Mm,
Or if you were watching a recording of a musical performance that was moving, you didn't have to be there live, you didn't have to watch it in person. You got the energy of how that music was moving you from that recording.
mm,
Right. So it's pretty much the same kind of idea in that sound moves us. And in this, with somebody I've been doing this 28 years now. So I can definitely tune right into your energy, listen to it, feel it, and support it in self regulating. So yeah, so it can be done over Zoom. I mean, if I had a fork handy, which I can pull out if we need to, even just a few minutes of sitting just listening starts to shift your state. So it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy. It's pretty simple and straightforward. But in person, uh, I would start off by using weighted forks on your body. And I use weighted tuning forks, almost like a stethoscope, because when you bounce sound off of something, it comes back with information. And so, if, for example, the whole left side of your body is jammed up because you're not good at receiving, we're actually going to feel that together. And I'm going to put a fork on the side of your right knee, and we're going to feel the pulse and the energy moving through that knee. And then we're going to come in the left knee and you're going to notice like, wow, this feels sluggish. It feels slow. It feels blocked in comparison. It's that obvious. And there's a whole language to the rhythms and flows of the body, just like Chinese pulse diagnosis. A skilled practitioner can put their fingers on your wrist and tell you a great many things based on the rhythms and the pulses and the feel of that. It's very much the same with tuning forks. There's a language there that you learn in time. Especially on the sternum, like it's kind of a fun party trick for me to bring a tuning fork into a party or a social event and just put my fork on the chest and listen to the heart rhythm, the rhythm, the just all the rhythms of the body. And I can tell people many, many things about their disposition, their current experience in life, just by feeling into those rhythms in the body. And then what we do is we figure out where we're going to work in the field based on different information. And then I go out to the edge of the biofield. So the biofield is a bubble. It's a torus, so it's a sphere with a central channel down the middle, and the body is in the area of the central channel. And our field extends about 6 feet to either side, about 2 feet above and below. And and I will find the edge of the field, and I can tell that I found the edge of the field because the tuning fork vibrates more in my hand because there's more energy in that membrane. And then I'm going to start moving in towards the body. And what this is, because your memories are stored in your magnetic field in standing waves. It's kind of odd because we've been taught that our memories are in our brain, but that's not what I discovered as I started exploring the field. I discovered that I was finding memories, and then I was finding very specific memories in very specific areas. So the field is sort of like file drawers, and every time you feel a particular emotion, it gets generated in a particular area of your field. For example, sadness. Anytime you feel sad, the record of your experience, the memory of that sadness is getting stored off your left shoulder in your field. So if I start on the left side of your heart and I move in towards your body, I'm going to find the memory of all these places where you felt sad, and I'm going to find them in chronological order. So as we generate information, our feelings, our responses, that's happening in the body, and then it's getting recorded in the field. So as we generate information, it moves away from us, kind of like hair, right? Hair grows, it moves away from you. So if I'm working on somebody who's 40, I start at the edge of their field, that's gestation, then birth. And then I'm going to find memories that were generated when they were 20, about 3 feet away from them. So it's like dropping a needle on an album and reading the vibrational record of a person's life and getting literally stuck in the resistance of traumatic or difficult time periods. So in the shamanic tradition, there's a concept called soul retrieval, and the notion that whenever we experience a significant trauma or stressor, a piece of our soul breaks off and gets stuck in time. And this is actually a way to go back in time and literally find those fragments within the memory bank of the body and essentially liberate the charge that is stuck there and comb it back into now and back into flow. So it's kind of like a sonic soul retrieval, combing through the memory banks, the electrical record of your life, and picking up the stray bits that, when stress takes something out of you, we do feel like we've aged when we come through something difficult. And that's because we've literally left light behind. And so this is a way to pick it back up. So if somebody has a block around abundance, that may be related to their ancestral lineage. And there are features within the field that I call the ancestral rivers, where we can actually tap into the song of the DNA that has come down through the generations and how it is currently informing our own system and signal. And we can work directly in that. So if you come from a lineage of poverty consciousness, that's like a program that's been installed in you that's running in the background. But this is a way to actually access where that program is stored. And it's like a song, and literally change the tune of it, literally invite it to release its stories and its illusions and its beliefs, and release all that and come back into a more neutral place. People might show up with different blocks in different places. If they're continually self-sabotaging themselves as they try to move out of a lack mentality, we might find blockages in the right knee. If they're always worried about money, we might find that off the left side of their head. So it's really about finding where these circuits, these stories, these beliefs are running in the system, and then just facilitating them to come into a new order, to come into a new story, to delete these hidden files that are creating a certain experience, and then rewire and reprogram for a different experience.
Wow. What comes up for me when you say all this, first of all, I love listening to you because you just have so much wisdom. You're just like, wow, every sentence is like, what? What comes up for me, and why you were describing this, was like how much our body is such an intelligent organism, and it reminds me so much of, like, it's so much better than a computer, right? We always look at humans' technologies like, that's the thing, it does everything by itself, and it's fantastic if I just only knew how to program and automate and systematize and yada, yada, yada. But in truth, the body does all that already, right? We just have forgotten that, and we're not really aware, so we don't know that we can access it. We think, to break out, we need to do this rather than that, or do something more informed rather than something that's not informed, right? So that's something that's super fascinating to me, and how the body's just so intelligent. Like I read something in a book a couple of months ago and said, well, sometimes you fall on your knee or a certain part of your body. Like there's a reason why you have an accident on certain parts of your body, because that's the only way your body knows how to release that stored energy in the spot, whether it's the elbow or the knee or the this or the that. It's like it's like the inside of the knee. Like for example, like 2 years ago, was running down the stairs and they were wet, and I fell on the inside of my right knee because like that's the only way I knew how to release that energy at that time. Um, but the beauty with biofield tuning, I feel, is that you can really like go in there and make these adjustments to bring it back into flow, and that's something really, really fascinating.
Yeah, it's really efficient, and and I will say that the body is amazing, and that is really one of the things that struck me in this work. And it's been many years sort of exploring this and figuring it out, and sort of blind fumbles in the dark with moments, flashes of illumination, where I'd see a pattern or I'd see a connection or something would dawn on me. But over and over and over again, I was struck by the brilliance of the human body and how we're like this incredible hardware, and we've all been kind of downloaded with nonsense software, a lot of programming, a lot of limitations, a lot of half truths, where we all have so much more potential than what has been programmed into us. And I think this is part of being what we would call a conscious individual, is recognizing that garbage in, garbage out. And just because I had this garbage installed in me and I'm experiencing come up, like I can reprogram myself. I can delete that file. I can install a new one, and I can start to program myself into optimization instead of lack, difficulty, struggle, drama, all of the ways that we've been diminished and made small. And trauma, I had a very, I wouldn't say I had a super traumatic childhood, but I had a pretty challenging childhood that put me into a state of continual contraction. I was always contracting. And then that all got wired into me. And then I discovered, I had an experience of myself as a very contracted, tense person. And that is absolutely not accessing the potential inherent in having a body. And my journey has been one of decades of like kind of figuring out how to open back up again, and to change the wiring, change the story, change the self beliefs, change the responses into something that comes from a centered, embodied, regulated place where I'm not disassociating and I'm not struggling. All of those experiences of self are really just programs and beliefs that can absolutely be changed. And we can, and everybody knows, like, this is one of the things that really also struck me, is that when I was working with somebody in my early years, and basically it's a process of getting the noise and resistance out of the electrical system, and then amplifying the true tone, the harmony, the sweet spot that's kind of buried underneath all of that. And I always found that when I got to that place at the end where they were just sort of humming from that sweet spot, that they were just so amazing. That every single person I worked on, I'm like, oh my God, you're so amazing. You're so brilliant. You're so great. Right. And I saw that in every single person. And it took 15 years of me seeing this in everybody before it dawned on me one day. I was like, oh my God, everybody is great. That means I must be great too. And it was such a hard pill to swallow. And isn't that interesting that we've been taught to reject our own greatness? And even though I saw it in so many people so clearly for so long, it was so hard to accept in myself. But that's just how we're built. We are amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's how we're built, and how I would say it's how we're programmed, right? Just like it's like years and years. I mean, I see it in my child. It's like, yeah, you come with nothing, and you, of course, you take everything on that you're exposed to. It's just that's a nature of the infant mind, and so yeah, it feels like we are a quantum computer that's like running Windows.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
exactly.
you can only open this, you can close it, you can minimize it, you can move the window, but it's like you can do so much more. Like if you only knew. So
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that you bring forth this work and this awareness of people really tuning more into that field, And part of the reason why I started the Successful Spiritualpreneur podcast is because I wanted to give people a platform that do amazing, unique work that usually are like Whereas in the system, the capitalist system that we are, it's like the number one measure of success is always like, what's your bank account, what's the money you make, yada yada yada. But like, I feel a lot of these people, right, rely on actually technology that we as pioneers develop, and like the beauty that we create, and the research and the depth and the field and the quantum that they have, maybe or maybe not yet dove into. So I think it's really beautiful and honorable that you put yourself forth like that.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I'll tell you what, because in 1996, when I told people in Connecticut, where I lived at the time, that I was using tuning forks for sound healing, I got very dismissed. And there's something about tuning forks and energy fields, and you hear it. And even to me, because I'm actually a very practical, logical, grounded, I'm actually a very left brained individual. And so when people were perceiving me as woo woo or pseudoscientific or airy fairy or far out, like that, I was like, I don't want to be that. And I don't want people to see me that way. And never wanted to do it as a vocation, really was doing it as a hobby. I did it as a hobby for 10 years. And then after 10 years of using the tuning forks just over the body, that's when I started to discover the field. And when I started working in the field, my therapeutic outcomes became very dramatic. And I realized that I had sort of unwittingly stumbled into something that I pretty much felt a moral obligation to bring to the world, because it's very efficient, effective, non-invasive. It's a very elegant approach to helping people. But even back then in 2006, it was still like not something I really wanted to do. I'm like, I don't want to be seen as a tuning fork lady. The skeptics and the mean people out there, this is the sort of thing they just love to rip apart. So I ended up going to college as an adult. I never went to college out of high school. And in 2006, I enrolled in college, and I did my undergraduate and master's degrees in 5 years and wrote a master's thesis called Exploring the Effects of Audible Sound and on the Human Body and its Biofield. And to really bring it into science, to bring it into science we all understand, science that makes sense, science that obeys laws that everybody has already learned about, and to just make it normal, to normalize the fact that we are electrical beings that respond to sound.
Beautiful, yeah. And I think in a way, like, we share kind of like that way of being perceived in the world, because even though I love, and that's kind of like the value I want to put forth most, right? Also with my agency, Love Pixel Agency, right? I still didn't want to leave people kind of like in the ethereal. I wanted to make something tangible. That's why websites. You understand? Like, so I totally hear you there. And talking about like websites and branding, I would love for us to like dive into a little like brainstorm session of like, what would the perfect website for you look like? Because we started working on some of your branding material and it didn't really land, it didn't really fit, and then we kind of just left it there. And it would just, yeah, I'd be really curious to know, it's like, what would be the, if I could have a website, what would it be like? Like, what would it look like? What would it feel like? Like, so if you have anything to say to that, that'd be really cool to hear.
Well, I think ideally a website sort of captures energetically the essence of what it is that somebody is bringing. And I think that what this work brings is a kind of spaciousness, uh, a kind of relaxation, a deep breath, sort of like an oasis in the desert kind of thing. It's like, oh, this is what my thirsty soul has been searching for, and I would want to inspire that kind of feeling, that a sense of relief, of relaxation, a sense of finding what you've been looking for. Because I really do feel like all the things that we offer really do support what so many people are looking for. So many people are stressed and dealing with really challenging things, and you want something that's going to make you breathe easier. At the end of the day, that's really what this work does, is it gets you to take fuller breaths. And from an electric health perspective, our primary source of energy is actually our breath, because we live in a plasma charged electrical atmosphere. And we're not just breathing in oxygen, we're breathing in light, we're breathing in electric juice. And right, because you can go weeks without food, days without liquids, but you can only go a few minutes without breath. So the more free your breath is, and the more deeply and fully and relaxed you breathe, the more energy you have and the more consistent your energy has. In fact, all self-regulation, in my opinion, rides on the breath, the activity of the diaphragm. So yeah, I think I would love for my website to invite someone to take a big breath and to
Mm,
feel relaxed. Mm-hmm.
beautiful. Yeah, I'm fascinated by how we, you say breath is kind of like light. Like we not just only breathe the oxygen, but we also take in light. And also, if you think about food, I mean, it's nothing else than stored sunlight in a way,
Exactly.
right? Whether it's like
Exactly.
a plant or a meat, like an
Yep.
animal that eats other animals that's eating plants, but just, you know what I mean? It's just like a dense form of light in a way.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. We are fundamentally light beings that need to consume light in order to stay alive. And that's why oxygen makes your blood bright red, and because it's filled with light. And then that light is what gets dropped off in your body, and then the blood comes back and it's dark red, and then it picks up more light. Right? So that is what is getting transported, is light.
I didn't
And
know
there's
that
always
about the
yeah,
blood color.
there's
That's so cool.
yeah, and there's also my colleague and friend John Stewart Reed, who's done a lot of work with cymatics, the study of waveforms made visible. He discovered that it's actually base frequencies that cause our blood to uptake oxygen. So, but part of the role of the beat of the heartbeat is to inspire that uptake of electricity into the blood. So, just another way that like drums or music is actually supporting our health and supporting the illumination of our blood, is that supporting our body's electrical system.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about your history. Let's switch gears a little bit into business. And can you tell us a little bit about your history, about like when you decided to kind of like make a website, when to like build an audience, how did you build the audience? How did you get how did you find your practitioners? How did they find you? Like, how did that all evolve into what it is today?
Well, I come from actually a long line of entrepreneurs, and I grew up with my dad, who had his own business that he ran from home, a mail order business. When I was 18, I got inspired. My parents had bought a building that they put the mail order business in part of it, and it had an empty part. And I became inspired to actually start a cafe there. And so when I was 20, I opened my first business with my family, a cafe in Connecticut that's still there. It's celebrating its 35th anniversary this year, which is pretty wild. But I left after 13 years in that. And then I moved to Vermont and I started a specialty food business making organic kettle corn. Actually, in 2004, I had the very first kettle corn available in stores. Now, it's everywhere now. It became a trend over the last few years. But in 2004, you could not buy kettle corn in a store anywhere. And so I started a business making kettle corn. I was in Vermont, so I made it organic maple kettle corn. I came up with a Chipotle one, and I was doing very well with that. I was making it all by hand. I had it in 50 stores. It was a really great recipe. It was a great profit margin. It was great timing into the marketplace, and I was convinced that I was going to blow it up and then like sell it to Frito-Lay and retire. And that was the track I was on when I started to see these results in my hobby. And then I got this very clear message, from Spirit that said to me, and it came in kind of like a certified mail download that said to me, the world needs harmony more than it needs another snack food. And and you need to go to college, get degrees, learn and teach about sound, become involved in scientific research, awaken an army, and spread biofield tuning all over the globe. And well, some people might argue with globe, but all over the world. And so I really couldn't argue with that. It's really evident to me that yes, the world needs harmony. I was reluctant to do it because of, the things we mentioned before, but also realized that I was well suited to the job. And so I did all that. And I made my very first YouTube video, I think in maybe 2012. You know what? Maybe I don't even know. I'd have to go back. But I would say that the way that my practice actually grew and the way that people found me was through YouTube initially. And I've have a lot of channel. I've had almost 2 million views on my YouTube channel, so it's been there, kind of doing its thing for a long time. Then I started a newsletter and was doing that regularly, and that helped a lot. I built my own first website, and I'm not even sure when that was, maybe 2012. Um, but initially, my first students found me that they were local. They were people who were clients and friends. And I taught my first pilot class in 2010 to a local group of people. And so it started off very local. But what really switched things up, Christian, was when my first book came out. When Tuning the Human Biofield came out in 2014, at that time, I had a very busy practice that had grown really primarily from word of mouth because people would come to see me. I was in the middle of nowhere in a tiny town in the mountains of Vermont, like no sign, like nothing, and doing something very odd. I was the only one in the world who did it at that point. But like I said at the beginning, I'm a problem solver, and I figured out how to use my tuning forks to solve all kinds of problems for people so they'd tell friends and so on. And so my practice was already full, and then my book came out, and then it just got more and more full to the point where I really couldn't handle it anymore. And I switched my approach from working with individuals to actually working with groups, which is kind of weird. I mean, group distance, like Zoom team fork healing, like I wouldn't sign up for something like that, but necessity is the mother of invention. And I found it actually was a way that I could treat many people at the same time. Less expensive for them, more lucrative for me, and it was a win-win. So over the years, my role has really changed and grown, from being a practitioner to being a teacher, to acquiring a team. I brought on my first apprentice in 2014 and another one in 2015. And then they came in and helped me to grow my teaching program. I got my first assistant in my office in 2017. And now I have a team of 32 people that help me. I've got a shipping department. And I ended up creating my own line of tuning forks in 2014. And actually started a website. I got a $5,000 loan from a friend because we had been through a very difficult time financially, and my husband was hit by a drunk driver. And so we lost everything and then some. And then I went to school full time for 5 years. So my growth of my organization is, the classic real bootstrap grew all of this really from nothing, and literally nothing, because I invented something out of thin air, essentially, and then grew it from nothing into something. Really, just by continuing to listen to my inner guidance and doing what I was instructed to do, and so, and over the years, the websites have changed, the newsletters have changed, everything kind of grows, evolved. My role has changed. But I would say the best vehicles for me for finding people in the beginning was definitely YouTube, then my book, and then, a growing web and social media presence.
Beautiful. Wow. That's quite the story there. That's incredible. From kettle corn to tuning forks. It could be the title of your next business book. That's hilarious. Wow. I love that. So we're nearing the end of the podcast, and I always love to, ask people what is it that, you would give yourself or anybody who would start out a business today that you would like kind of like, knowing that they're spiritual entrepreneurs, right? Like what would you tell them to keep doing or keep, going in that direction?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you have to be, in order to really grow, you have to be willing to continually reinvent yourself, because I come from that rugged, self-sufficient individual. I can do everything myself. And you can only go so far doing everything yourself. Like at some point or another, you have to, if you want to have more impact, you have to start to grow a team. And everything that worked for you as a self-sufficient individual works against you as a team player, unfortunately. And you have to really break yourself down and reinvent yourself, kind of over and over again, in order to evolve anything like an organization. And even within the organization, we build systems and they work to a certain point, and then you have to deconstruct those and construct new systems. So it's always a process of like expanding and then contracting and reconnoitering and reinvention. And that's not always easy to do. I think we've been really enculturated into our own silos of self-sufficient individuality, and it doesn't even occur to us to get help, to reach out, to lighten the load, to spread out the workload, or even to collaborate. And I would say that the greatest richness for me has, and also challenge, has been in growing a team, managing a team, and managing, the expansions and contractions, the pitfalls, the challenges, that go with that. And you have to be really, really flexible in your perception of self, if you want to keep moving through the levels, and which is what I love to do. I mean, to me, life is a game, and it's all about like unlocking the next level and the next level and the next level, because it's more fun, right? That's the exploration of life, and inevitably it leads you to needing to be part of a team, and that's not always it's not easy, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for that. And if people want to learn more about you, or is there a program you want to promote at this time, like where can people find you? And is there anything, you want to send people towards at this specific time?
Well, the best website to go to is biofieldtuning.com. We also have a store. So I make really high quality tuning forks. I have my own alloy that I co-created with my manufacturer. Tuning forks, you can go buy some on Amazon to play with, but they're not sound healing tools. They're just, you get what you pay for with tuning forks, and you might look at mine and go, oh my God, they're so expensive. And that's because I'm super picky about the quality of things that I put out and that I use. So there's all kinds of tuning forks to be found there, tuning forks and accessories. If you want to, and actually in the book, Tuning the Human Biofield, there's only one chapter on how to use the forks, because I figured out a really simple way to use them. I didn't need more than one chapter, but I needed to kind of frame the whole cosmological story of how and why they work. So that's why there's a bunch of other chapters in the book. But you can read what's in the book and get a tuning fork and teach yourself the very basic principles that you can find there. But I do all kinds of different things. I go to different kinds of live events. I've got some really great ones coming up this summer, and those you can find those at my website. I love meeting people in person. I do virtual classes. I have one coming up. It's not listed quite yet, but will be soon. A 3-week course called Amplify Your Light. And it's all about what I was saying before about getting the noise out of the signal and amplifying that true tone, really bringing your gifts, your amazingness up to the surface. And my courses are a combination of education, coaching, and tuning. So we get the sort of benefit of using the sound in the mix, so that we're not just talking about something, but we're actually shifting our body's electrical expression to support these new ways of looking at things. Yeah. So, and then I have different courses like that I've done in the past and recorded. So there's really a lot to choose from. And then, like I said, there's a bunch of free ones too. So if that's the level you want to come in at, there's lots to do there too.
Beautiful. Well, we'll link all those in the show note description. And thank you so much for your time, your energy, your ingenuity, and for everything that you are, Eileen. It was such an honor to have you on.
Nice. Thanks so much for having me, Christian.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.